to the All Things Good podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the All Things Good podcast. I'm your coach and your host, Giovanna Cirillo. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast that helps you with mental health, self-development, and your overall wellness, helping you become the greatest version of yourself. Today, we are going to be touching back on to amazing topics in honor of Black History Month. We have a lovely guest by the name of Herb Parsi.
Mhm.
Please introduce yourself and let us know what you do.
Hey, how y'all doing, everybody? I'm Herb Parsi. I am a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor. I place emphasis on the underserved community. Um, and I also have criminal justice credentials. Um, and focus on reentry into society in our community.
Awesome. We have Khalilah Jackson.
Hi, they call me Dr. Lily. I'm a research psychologist by day. I'm also a salon owner and a two-time breast cancer survivor.
Awesome. We have Nate.
How you guys doing? I am Nate. I am the owner operator of Williams Media and Williams Management, as well as a manager by day, retail manager by day, and philanthropist, speaker on all things have to do with us.
Awesome. We have Michelle.
Hi, I am a legal professional from Morgan Stanley. I'm also a certified relationship coach and CEO and founder of Annalisa Firms.
And then we have Control K with King.
What's going on, y'all? This is King from Control K with King podcast. I'm also a licensed optician and been in the optical field for 20 years.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you guys back on to continue our discussion on Black history. We're going to start today with life development. I feel like life development is almost like the key to everything, right? How can early exposure to trauma impact adult decision making and emotional development?
Mm.
Mm,
Good question. It's a good question.
it takes a hold early, you know, particularly if it happens at a point when we're not uh, capable of knowing how to process it. You know, just a small thing. I remember uh, when my son was really small, really, really small. I would use my voice. The first time I used my big voice, he jumped
Mm.
and then he stopped doing what he was doing. But ever since then, when he hears my voice, he still stops doing whatever it is he's doing, And I don't know that that's necessarily trauma, but that scared him enough to realize, okay, dad's serious. I got to pay attention. And you take that small piece and you can extrapolate that to any kind of other type of trauma, anything that jars you or pulls you away from your norms, that shakes you and changes your perception of things, can continue to grow and fester. Later on down the line, it can turn into something that's extremely unhealthy and can stunt your growth. You know, your actual self-development, it can stunt that.
Right.
Absolutely. When sometimes in our communities we say we don't do therapy. Therapy's for white.
Mm.
Yeah.
And as a person with some people on this panel know, I've been in therapy probably for the last year, due to a lot of things, the death of my mother and just some more things, that with going through therapy, there's things that I guess hid from myself, certain situations. You try to just dig it up, put it in a hole, and keep pushing on. Some other things have come up. And so when I look at my life as a whole and I look at certain segments and parts of my life, because we're all, rebirthing ourselves every couple of years. We're all, because we're growing.
Right.
And there's certain things we leave behind is new things that we pick up. Um, as King said, like some of those traumas can pull you and weigh you down, if you do not um, identify them, and then seek the help that can help you not get past it. I hate when people say get past that. You can't get past
Mhm.
it. You have to learn to deal with it and adapt it to your life. Some things that I've realized um, in my past that were extremely traumatizing, um, I've used them as fuel. I've used them as my way of pushing myself to get other things done, in a positive manner. So like I said, but each person is different. Each person in
Right.
time will mature to do certain things, and when they get to those times, then and all you can do as a person that's around individuals such as this is try to positively uplift them. Um, but it takes the person to understand and finally say, hey, I'm deciding to push forward.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
And I totally agree with with his perspective of things being person centered. The best basically what he was saying is being individually processed, by each person. Um Trauma definitely can be fuel. There are a plethora of us African Americans that actually use trauma in an innovative way. I mean, kind of sort of like I was explaining today to one of the youth at the youth program. I was explaining to them about chitlins and how we were fed scrap and how we made it taste good. So a lot of us use trauma as fuel. And once we get to the point where it's time to release it, or it starts to be detrimental in our in our social life or in our family, in our home or outside, and it starts to affect finances or whatever have you. We get to the point where we are referred to treatment that is going to it well it's threatening to snatch away the fuel that we have, and then the grief process comes about. We can speak about this all night. The thing is that there's so many things that come to my mind when it comes to us and trauma. Um, it is something that needs to be addressed, but understood prior to, meaning that understood from each individual, you understand, in their upbringing. And we have to tread lightly when we speak about it and address it with each individual,
Mm.
because some of us need the trauma to not only live but to continue to coexist with society.
Mm.
um we also have to, uh as the brother said, um understand that therapy was designated for those who were in the position to afford it.
Mhm.
Those that the therapy was designated or put aside or set aside for those who had knowledge of it being available. Therapy was for those therapists who would accept those particular individuals. We're coming from a place to where we had designated water fountains. Um, yeah, we got a long way to go as far as that is concerned, and I'm saying this trauma and us the childhood trauma transitioning into adulthood it's a very tricky topic, and I agree totally. It's a good question. The thing is that I don't know if I could answer that question in its totality within this allotted time. So I hope I didn't dance all around. I hope I answered as much as I could, but it's just so much going on in my mind right now. And I apologize if I didn't hit it dead on.
No, you gave us some
No,
good pointers, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback off of what the brother said, everybody gave good perspectives, but as far as like the people who don't use it as fuel to do better or as a form of resilience, the drug use, promiscuity,
mhm.
it it
Mhm.
it can affect, especially being young and things happening. So I think there should be like some grace, for people that we see that are not as strong as we were to overcome,
Right.
Mm.
you know.
Michelle?
Oh, yes. So like Herbert said, we could go on and on about, life development. Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry,
Yes.
the
Mhm.
echo. Um, I feel like people get punished for their reactions that they were never taught to manage.
Mm.
It's a lot of anger withdrawal, self-sabotage, and especially in our communities. To Nate's point when he said we were always taught, oh, it's white, or it's, with therapy.
Mm.
And I don't think, I guess, I don't know about your parents or anything like that, but they couldn't teach us because that's not how they were raised,
Mhm.
Right.
Um, they were always taught to be strong, so that's what they tell us. Uh, and then we can't be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that space to be vulnerable. Um, yeah, like Herbert said, we can go on and on about life development. So much there to talk about. But yeah,
Right.
I think a
I agree
lot
with
of us.
everybody's point.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead, can you do?
Now I was just saying. I think a lot of people, particularly in our community, we are walking around just basically reacting to life.
Mhm.
You
Mm.
know, instead of understanding ourselves.
Right.
And I think that the more we introduce that into the youth, to the younger generations, about being able to understand themselves. I've been big on that with my son. I think it's paid off dividends. And I think the earlier we get to that point, the better off we'll be in our development overall.
I
Yeah.
agree. Definitely. I think that, like Michelle stated, we were never given or taught how to manage emotions. We were never taught how to, handle stress or handle the things because our parents weren't taught these things. And
Mhm.
so all they knew how to do was survive for so many years. And I believe that we are all at a place right now where there's so many resources for us to begin to break generational curses and reframe narratives and reprogram the ways of living. Um, so with that being said, when it comes to healing, how do you believe that how can we heal while still build? Because a lot of people believe that when you're healing, that everything needs to stop, right? I
Hmm.
just need to focus on myself and I need to do the work and do the inner work, but there's still work to be done outside of us. How can we do both in a community?
Yeah, I agree with what Nate said that, he went through some things and he went and he's still working through them with help and he's still building, himself and his businesses. So, you know, therapy definitely. Now we have life coaches that, it wasn't as privy years ago, and
Yeah.
more people are wanting to go to life coaches as opposed to therapists because
Hmm.
it's a more safe place where you don't feel like it's something wrong with you, so
Agreed.
Nate, when you had back in the day, you had some surgery done.
Hmm.
Snitching.
Um, What'd you get? You got like a foot transplant or something, right?
A foot transplant. I ain't never heard of nothing like that in my life. But
I'm like,
I was
wait,
like, oh,
what?
that's
Never
new.
heard
You got a
that
whole new
either.
foot. You got a new foot. You got a new foot.
I had some foot surgeries. Yes, my brother.
He got somebody else's foot on his.
Yeah,
Foot
it's a whole new
plant.
foot. Whole new foot. But no, when you had that surgery done, did you have to go through physical therapy?
Yes,
Yeah. In order for you to get back the mobility that you needed, correct?
that is correct.
So it couldn't just sit there and heal, could it?
No,
It had to get up and move.
absolutely.
That's what we need to do. We got to make sure that we're continuing to move while we heal. You know, we got to be strong enough to see that needs to happen.
Right.
We have to be emotionally intelligent enough to be able to look at ourselves and how we're feeling and force ourselves to get up over our feelings and move based on what it is that we need. And I think the more we lean in on teaching true emotional intelligence, which is not just being able to express how you feel.
Right.
Okay. There's a lot more to it, but being able to understand your own feelings and, compare those to what logically needs to be done is something that we need to be able to teach ourselves and our youth as well, in order to, when you have those things and you need to heal, you get up and you continue to move because you don't want to get atrophy. You don't want to get stuck. You don't want to let the scar tissue build up so much that you eventually just can't move. The pain might stop. The pain might stop because it's healed, but then you're stuck.
Correct.
Right.
You don't want to
You
do that.
you just reminded me of something. It's very difficult for me to answer these questions, and I'm going to tell you why. No, I want to tell you why. I talked to so many people from so many different walks of life, um, and within almost the same community, and the overall picture of this thing is that the 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 I don't know how you would phrase it, but the person who is out of sync with their emotions
Mhm.
uses their emotional responses as a form of communication within the community that they're in.
Mm.
To be stripped of or to heal would be to let go of their ability to coexist in their current society. I don't know if you guys, because you guys are looking at me like I got
Mm.
four heads. So I don't know if you guys are understanding where I'm coming from right now.
I
It's
get it.
very difficult for me to answer these questions because my perspective, for one, I don't have, just one perspective
Right.
because I have empathy for,
Right.
Mhm.
for everybody's truth.
Correct.
My truth is that yeah, I need to deal with my stuff. I leave, like I say to all of my supervisees, I say to my clients, I leave my baggage in the car so that I can empty out and be available for you guys. So I'm just telling you, it's very difficult for me to pinpoint, like, just to come up and answer these questions because I speak to so many different people from the same environment with different perspectives and that hold on to trauma as if this particular thing, and truth be told, some trauma does allow you to see another day.
Mm.
Hmm.
So trauma is perceived as a valuable tool within certain communities. I'm going to tell you, my trauma helped me be a better clinician.
Mm.
You know why? Because I'm able to observe within groups. I see from this side and see that and see that, because shit, I grew up watching my back my whole life.
Correct.
So that is that has become a valuable tool of mine.
Right.
Right.
right? It's an indirect response, but it's become a valuable tool of mine. It earned me a few bucks. So what I'm saying to you is that ability to sense what's going on down the street, ability to say, "Hey, man, it don't look right here," or let me walk this way instead of that way this today, so on and so forth. I think that some trauma is held on to on purpose,
Mm.
you know, and I'm not someone who did, I'm a person centered counselor. I don't get to the point where I'm making too many referrals and making too many suggestions. I sit down and say, "Hey, what is it that you would like to do?
Mm.
Right.
You
Because
know,
every
what's you know, what's that day, that perfect day look like for you?"
right.
You know? So yeah, it's very difficult for me to answer these questions.
But you're answering them.
Oh yeah,
You are.
all right,
And your
cool. Thank you.
perspectives, your multiple perspectives is very beneficial to this discussion. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Michelle, did you want to say something?
To piggyback what King said earlier, we have to stop waiting to be ready. You were saying basically Nate has to do the work to heal. And I actually took notes about this. But you have to set those boundaries. You have to leave unhealthy situations.
Mhm.
That's all part of life development. I guess that could fall under the self-love too, but that's also part of life development. Ask for help. Choose what gives you peace.
Mhm.
I think all of that stuff is important. As far as the trauma that Herbert was talking about, you know, in a way that shapes us to who we are now, right? We're either going to learn from it or we fall into that hole, and it seems like lots of us, most people dealt with trauma, maybe not the same thing, but we learn from it. So that's what I got.
Right.
And just
Trauma builds too. You ain't
Mm-hmm.
lying about that.
It
That's how you
does.
build muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you
Exactly.
build muscle and you work out, you are ripping the fibers of your muscle,
right.
and then they grow back stronger. That's trauma,
Right.
you know. So yeah,
I love that
sometimes it's
perspective.
necessary.
And
It is.
just to piggyback off of something Michelle and King said as well. When we kept saying, like he said, I went through that foot surgery, and thank you, brother. He was the one who brought me home both times I had surgery. So I appreciate you. Yes, I had to have the muscles had to, move to let those muscles reheal. But the one thing that we choose not to do, and it's the reason I respect Brother Herb so much as well, is we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable to get the help. One speech that I've heard in my life that I know I will never ever forget was Stuart Scott at
Mm.
the ESPYs before he passed away from cancer. And the one thing Stuart Scott said in that piece when he spoke, he said, "I fight till I can't fight, and I lay down, and I let my wife fight for me. I let my daughters fight for me. I let my friends fight for me." And that part right there, some people don't allow themselves to be vulnerable enough to be like, "I can't handle this. I need you to fight with me."
Mm.
Right. And I think once our mind state starts changing from, like Michelle said earlier, our parents grew up like, you have to be strong. Well, sometimes I can't be strong by myself. Right.
Takes a
Sometimes I
village.
need somebody to be there to be strong with me or even for me. Because other than that, I'm putting on a front, right? And we've been doing it for years and decades and centuries, putting on this front to be like, I got it because I'm the man, or I'm a strong woman, right? There's somebody there to help you, and those people you need to lean on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree. When you put up a wall of protection, what may seem to be protection, you're actually redirecting your blessings. You're redirecting community to
Mhm.
go elsewhere because you have it all together. You don't need help,
Mm.
right? And so when we become vulnerable, we become open and allowing people to come and pour into us when we can't pour into ourselves. So I love that to share that, Nate. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else have anything they want to say regarding this topic?
Building, building a building a support network, building a support system, and i.e. strengthening the current support system. And I mean that by just authentically having those hard discussions with the support system that we have now. Um, and letting us, letting family know, like, hey man, I do need support in this area. Hey, I don't have the greatest of skill in this area, that area, whatever have you, and asking what is available to me outside of here.
Mm,
um you be surprised, well, you may not be surprised how many people just don't know what's out there for them.
mm,
I literally just finished, I, like literally just finished talking to, I was going to say young man, but an older man that did 40 something years, and he doesn't know that he had a job. He doesn't know that he was employed by the state and he's privy to, Social Security. He did not know that.
Oh.
Mm.
Hmm.
On top of all the other stuff he doesn't know. He does it. They said, oh man, he's so ill prepared for this thing, and it's a lot of work we need to do.
Hmm.
Thing is that he also doesn't know that there's treatment out here for him. He doesn't know that there's coaches out here for him. He doesn't know that parole is responsible for him. He doesn't know that he has insurance to where he can go, this place and that place. He doesn't know that his state ID, the ID that he had when he was incarcerated, is valid to a certain point. He thinks he doesn't have ID. See, all of these things we don't know,
mm,
right? Um, so I'm saying that to say that it's important for us, for no apparent reason, sometimes to ask someone, do they need help? It's
right.
very important, just for no apparent reason. Hey, do you need any type of help? Do you know that this is available to you? Do you know that that is available to it? And you can even pose it as just you know, just one of those I don't know, that like normal conversations. Hey, you know what I just found out? I found out that blah 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 is available to us. Not
Right.
just say you, just say to us.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Definitely.
Yeah.
yeah, we just don't know, man. There's a lot of us out here that don't know the amount of support that's available to us. Don't know the support, to what extent our immediate circle will support us, and so on and so forth. So I think, I think we need to be taught to utilize the support that we have to the best of our ability, and also to seek, the understanding of what supports out there are available to us.
Yes, I love that. I love the idea of supports. And you mentioned working, and I want to start diving into the topic of jobs and housing. Um, do we believe that the job market, that the marketplace is still operating out of systemic bias when there are labels titled that discrimination is illegal? But do you somehow still see that within the community? And if so, how?
Hmm. Anybody want to touch that? All
Well, I
right.
mean, you see
I
the way that they.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, go ahead. You got. I,
All right. So if discrimination is illegal, then we have a lot of tearing down and rebuilding to do,
Mhm.
because systemically, um the country was developed and structured off of strictly discrimination, and discrimination is is the fuel to the it's the fuel to the maturity of this country. And the reason why I say that is because, all right, I'll go back to this man that did 40 years. Um, the 13th Amendment, if we, you know, get out our textbooks and we, skim through it, it strictly reads that, okay, all men are free. Then it says, unless you commit a crime. So when I say the system in its totality needs to be, has to be torn down and rebuilt, that's what I mean. I mean, I can go on and on with this as well. This could be a 2-month podcast. You know what I mean? With the questions that you asking right now, you are asking some very good, deep questions. And I'm going to tell you, my mind right now is racing. But to just sum it all up, yes, discrimination exists, and it is taking us out of the loop. We're talking about undereducated, for one, underappreciated, two, undereducated, two, underemployed. Um, there's
Underpaid.
a word.
Mm-hmm.
There's a word called employability, right? Employability and gainful employment, right? So we can be employed, right, but be underemployed,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Mhm.
Does not mean that we don't have the education. I got a cartoon character that I developed now. His name is Nigga in the Suit, and I'll expound on that in a minute. But what I'm saying to you is that the level of education. I mean, how many of us have heard uh teachers say, "Oh, well, I got my education." That right there indirectly tells you the amount of effort they are willing to put forth without rejection.
Correct.
Mm.
Right? Now you do have some teachers that say, "Oh, you know what? This is a good kid. I'm going to pour into this child." Right? But that's a condition. So now you have conditional care. Like you care conditionally. I Man, I can go on and on and on with these things, but like I said earlier, man, yeah, this is a system that needs a lot of attention in order for it not to scream discrimination. Um,
Mm.
I am someone who has went back to school. I got my GED at 34 years old. Prior to that, I owned my own home. I drove very nice vehicles. I made very nice investments. I did wonderful. But what I'm saying to you is that I went back to pursue my education because of my children. My children were growing up, and I said, "All right, I don't want to send them to private school and daddy don't know, how to spell certain words." You
Right.
understand? So I used to pick up books and act like I'm reading, so on and so forth. And then I had to put it, in reality. And I went and got my GED. That was a struggle. And I saw how the work field treated people like myself who drove a better car than my supervisor because I was already established. You know what I mean? Underpaid, underappreciated. And I realized that that world, in order to coexist with that world, I had to continue to pursue higher education, right?
Right.
Um, and still I get treated like a nigga. So, but
Mm.
I'll pass that
Mm.
on. I'll pass this on to the next. Yeah. So
Yeah. I totally agree that there is discrimination, and I bring it up real quickly. A story that I talked about with my wife. So, I worked for a grocery food chain, and they were pursuing me to take a next position. And me and my wife talked about it back and forth, right? And so what I'm gonna say is, um, you know, we were breaking down. She asked a question that was very interesting to me. She said, I know you have the skills to do what they're asking you to do, but it's just a question. The question was, are they asking you to do it because of your skin color, or are they
Mm.
asking you to do it because of the skills you have, or is it a combination of both? And I literally had to sit there and think about the question, because I knew she wasn't doubting my skills, because she's been with me a long time. She knows what I can do, whatever the case may be, the promotions I've had. But I had to really think about it. And in this circumference of stores that this chain had, um, there were 22 particular stores in my quote unquote district. And then I started thinking, I'm like, out of 22 stores, it's only 5 people that look like me.
Mm.
And so I had to start asking myself the question, yeah, are y'all really trying to give me this position? One, because I deserve it, or are you giving it to me because of both?
Right.
Because why not? Why are there not more people like myself that or look like me that are driving the business or ahead of the business, right? And then I took that question to one of the individuals who, looked like me and was running a situation. And he goes, yeah, this is kind of BS. He's like, there's a lot of things I had to learn on my own. He's like, when they come together, and they promote one of them and they put them in, they got their arms around them. Hey, let me show you this. Let me show you that. And he was like, it's the reason that I always did that with you. He was like, because I knew what you could do, but I also knew that they weren't going to put their arms around you to teach you these things that you would know or need to know to take the next step. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, when you even go back, let's say 20 something years, right? And I know Jerome remembers this. We sat in a room with about 14, maybe like 12 to 14 people, when I first met him. And we worked for another. And in that room, out of 12 or 14 people, it was myself, him, 2 other females that looked like us, and the rest were something different. So even back then, and this is talking about 2003. And the reason I'm making this point is, from 2003, and we talking about 2026, we're still seeing some of the same bias um, in these employment places, which is why a lot of us say we want to create our own. The only thing I would say, and I'm gonna leave it on this: when we create our own, how are we treating the people that we're going to hire when we open up these businesses?
That's a good topic right there. Because when we create our own businesses, when we're opening up a facility, we are the new, how do I say, leaders in action. And so what was done to us should not be done to others. We are supposed to be better, right?
Amen.
I love that. I love that. Anybody else want to touch on that?
Well, I mean, there's discrimination
Mm-hmm.
because we fought for civil rights in order to end the discrimination as much as possible.
Mm.
And that's what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. It's just making sure that that discrimination is not prevalent. Got nothing to do with merit. They try to spin it as they dismantle as much of it as they can. And I'm talking about the administration that we're dealing with right now. And you see it actively happening. Um, and we all know what it is. You know, we know that that's an access thing that they're cutting away from us. And access is the thing that that creates the fairness. If we have the access to it and everybody's merit is lined up, we should be able to do just as well as anybody else. Because when it's there, when a hand is forced, you see it, the outcomes are just as good. Sometimes better, but it's an unfortunate situation that we have to deal with because we got to be twice as good to be considered equal half the time, you know.
Right.
Um, but you get used to it,
Mm.
And that's the bad part.
That's that right. It's
You got to
not
get used to
fair,
doing that.
but that's what it is.
Mm.
You shouldn't have to be used to it. It's
Right.
just like getting used to something that's not right and it's not right, but that's just what you're used to, and you can't fight City Hall sometimes. And not every time anyway, you know. But it's
Agreed.
if we had more, more local jobs like there were back in the day before, I think we'd be better off. But um more local jobs that were able to pay us living wages.
Living wages, right?
Yeah, because we don't really have living wages like that anymore on a regular basis. Minimum wage is no longer a minimum wage. It's just the lowest amount they're allowed to pay you.
Pay you.
You know,
Mm.
but that's what the minimum wage was supposed to be, the minimum amount that you can make to live.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that's not a
Interesting.
thing anymore. But if we were able to build more jobs in closer proximity to our own neighborhoods, sustainable jobs, I think that that would be a big help, because the diversity, equity, and inclusion would be built in.
Right. Such good insight. I want to go and touch into self-love and then we're going to wrap it up. But I want you guys, when I'm asking these questions, to kind of allow the questions to pour into how we handle our youth and how we live in today's society. Okay. Because even with the discrimination that we're still faced with, I believe having that security of self-love is going to be the thing to sustain us when we see that they're still overlooking us or they're still putting us in lower positions or not paying us, because it becomes almost like a resistance to say, oh no, you're not going to treat me this way because I know who I am. I know what I am capable of. I know my history. I know I have my education. I have all these things. And I will not allow you to treat me this way because I love myself enough not to handle the mistreatment. Don't get me started because I'll start. Listen, I'll get started. Okay, so when we talk about self-love, it is often framed as selfish rather than necessary. Why do you think this is?
Listen,
I just got a question. I got a question real quick. Are we speaking of self love at from like a person or a community? What
I
are
would
we
say
saying?
starting with us and
Okay.
pouring into
Okay.
community, into
All right.
those around us.
Thank you.
Well, the misconception and of the word selfish, everything has a root cause, root word. The root word is self, right? And I was having a conference with a DJ earlier today, who asked me a question about why did I take the time to work with them, right? And I told her two things can exist. I can worry about myself and I can worry about others at the same time.
Mm.
And how do you go about doing that? Is knowing your goals and your standards. And while utilizing those things, you see what other people are capable of doing. I was actually texting somebody earlier and having a conversation and was like, hey, I'm going to set these different things up for you, right? The person texted me back and was like, "Hey, don't worry. I appreciate everything you guys do for me. I'm telling you, I'm gonna take care of you." Boom, boom. And what I told the person is, I'm looking at your ability, right? And the abilities that you have and where your brand could go, right? So yeah, and the part I am worried about myself, and I am being what people would call selfish because I'm putting myself first, but that's human nature. What person doesn't? Yeah, if somebody called me and said, I would give you my last $10 if I had it, right? But I still have to make sure before I give you those $10, I have what I need because that's just self-preservation. And basically, life in general kind of works, but you have to be able to love your life. You can't look at somebody else's life and be like, I wish I had what they had. Well, nobody gave it to them. Somehow they got it, right? So love yourself enough to honor and be happy with what you have, with the same time trying to figure out how to grow to get that next thing that you want. Um, that's just my thoughts, man.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. So self-love is my thing. Like that's
We
my
know.
lane. I wrote a whole book about self-love. Like
Plug it.
honestly, huh? But we're always taught the comedy. We're always taught to put others first and don't complain and don't need too much. So the moment we choose ourselves, it's looking like rebellion. You know,
Mhm.
um, that's where it comes where they think we're being selfish because they're finally choosing us. Now it's looking like, oh, you're selfish, and I'm like, what? I actually had a friend tell me I'm selfish.
Mm.
And I laughed because I was like, excuse me? Like, I'm far from selfish, you know? But I noticed I was constantly doing for them.
Right.
That the moment I chose myself, that's when they were just like, what? Like, this can't be. No, you have to set those boundaries, you know?
Can I ask a question about that friend real quick? You don't know no names and nothing like that.
Okay. Oh, look,
But
I'm my areas. I'll name. So, no, go ahead. But, like,
You good.
just a quick question. Did that friend that called you selfish and you were
mhm,
constantly doing for them,
mhm.
were they in need more on a consistent basis while you would have the appearance of having everything you need?
Uh, all right. I want to say yes. They were a taker.
Okay.
They're always, I'm sure I'm not the only person
Absolutely.
that they needed
Mhm.
something from.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
always just taking, and then I'm giving because I'm like, look, I got you,
Mhm.
right? Because I'm not selfish, right? And I can. But the moment, it's just that moment, you can't
Mhm.
do it. Even family are like this. I have some
Yeah.
family that's like that too.
Mhm.
And then it's like, oh, you can't do for me. You're not doing anything for me. You're being selfish. And I'm sitting here like, no, I'm gonna show you what selfish is. That's what like now you're gonna see what you're gonna know the difference.
Mhm.
But yeah.
I think Herb
What's
said
up?
something to me several times that I have put a pin in and have made sure that it was in the forefront of my mind a lot when I was going through some tough times, and the brother said one of the most selfless things you can do sometimes is to be selfish. Because if you don't get yourself taken care of, you can't take care of nobody else. I need to make sure that I get what I need taken care of for me so
Mhm,
that I can get my son taken care of.
mhm,
I need to make sure that I'm getting a good night's sleep so that I can wake up and take care of him, cook him breakfast and do these things.
mhm,
Right.
You know, I can't be up all night on the game or in the studio or doing whatever, partying and going out. I can't do it because I got other stuff that I need to do that I need to give of myself over here,
Right.
you know. And people that are takers, they don't see that.
mhm.
They don't have that emotional intelligence to look beyond themselves. That's the selfishness.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the point where you can't look beyond yourself at all for anything. That's the selfish part,
Right.
you know.
Can I?
And
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ken. Go ahead.
no, no, I'm gonna just leave with this. I saw something online that I thought was so clear to me when and it just made sense with what she was talking about with her friend, where the guy said, you know, you look in my cup uh to see if I got as much as you, or to see if you got as much as me. I'm looking in your cup to make sure you got enough,
Mm.
and it's like that thought process is what people try to mask or hide and make it seem like, oh, it's funny or it's joking, but that's actually the poisonous selfishness. But there is good selfishness that you need in order to maintain and function. And we do need to teach our kids about that as well. We all want to be, well, I'm not going to say all, but if you practice Christian values, you want to be Christ-like, which is to love and to give and to take care of your neighbor and all of that, but you can't do that if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
You just can't.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
All right. So I want to chime in. I'm going to say you ended my quote, right? I think you landed it well. You began the quote a little rocky.
Well, I'm not the licensed clinical therapist,
Well,
so
no, I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it from that standpoint, but it's just if you look at the tag. Actually, we've been emailing back and forth. So if
Mhm.
anybody has any access to the email in my tag, it simply says the most unselfish thing you can do is be selfish.
Mm.
I didn't say one of. I said the. See, when you say one of the most unselfish, that leaves a little wiggle room for me to give when I don't have. That leaves a little wiggle room to say, yeah, I may sacrifice it. Nah, no, no, it's not an option. Me first.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an option. And the reason why I'm saying me first is because I want to be not just available to you, but I want to be the best version of me when I make myself available to you.
Mm.
So therefore, there is no negotiation. It's me first.
That
Discipline,
Yes. So
not indulgence.
no, I can't spell that neither. All right. So listen. Uh, so so no negotiation. Not one of the things. It's the most unselfish thing you can do is be selfish. I tell that to everybody. You know what I mean? Sometimes it pisses me off when my wife get in the zone where she adopted that, mentality and she gets off the, doing her and it's like, yo, what's up? I don't matter today. And but you know what? She's getting her shit together so that she can be available to me. And I appreciate the hell out of that. So I don't look at it as one of the, one of the most thing. Now, I say the most unselfish thing I could do is be selfish. It's about me so that it could potentially be about you in the near future.
correct. Right.
Amen.
All right.
I agree. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
I
No.
do. I do. So we talk about now that we talked about, and I'm glad Herb defined that right there, right? Because now, how do we teach the children this same message, right? Based off exactly. So, and I said he hit it right on point, because this is what my wife and I try to instill into my daughter. She goes to school. People like, oh, you got this for lunch. I got that for lunch. My wife goes total bananas with my daughter in Sam's Club when it's about getting her lunch. And it's here, you got these cookies, you're gonna have these chips, you're gonna have this fruit roll up and this. And like, so the blessing that has been bestowed upon us is that we are able to afford these different things for her. And she'll come home and she'll be like, my friend asked me for this because they didn't have this, or my friend ate school lunch so they didn't have this. And the one thing my wife drives into her, like, I don't care if you share your food, that is your choice, but do not share it at the expense of giving it all away to them because they're, they don't have that in their lunch.
Right.
And so, I would say, how do we take what he said and teach that where children can say, yes, I love me, but I love me enough to take care of me first before I take care of somebody else.
Right.
Knowing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if I may add into that, when it comes to teaching them that, first we have to teach them that their flaws, everything about them is acceptable. Because you are talking about a generation, right, where social media is rampant and there's an image that everyone needs to look, I need to look like this, I need to have this, I need to be doing this, I need, when all you need to do is really just be. Just be. Accepting the texture of your hair, accepting the color of your skin, accepting what you have, accepting what you don't have, and not comparing each other. Showing our kids that what they have right now is enough. They don't need to add, they don't need to subtract, because we're putting fillers, we're doing all these things, right? And nothing against those who decide to do that. That you got the money to do that, then kudos to you. But our kids should not be being taught these things. And it starts at home, teaching them that just the way you are is beautiful. Gap in your teeth, buck tooth, yeah, we'll get that fixed, but you still are beautiful, right? And that's my perspective. I'm very passionate about that. So yeah. Anybody else want to add on to
that? Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Acting as if being that role model, being consistent, being a consistent character, using that with, I use that with my children, I use that with my wife, I use that with my, I gotta deal with me first, right? It gets to the point where I come home, I got this whole compiled list, they call it the honey-do list, you know what I mean? And it's like, all right, well, cool, that comes later. I don't give a damn if I gotta go get me a cigar. Hey, I planned on getting a cigar. Oh, what a such and such need to be done. Hey, that should have been taught to me. You should have been told me about that a little earlier. I'm going to get my cigar. I may entertain that when I get back.
One of the things that Viola Davis, she talked about the danger of living your life to please other people. And she said, like, and not verbatim, but she was basically saying, would you rather live your life pleasing other people and being and disappointing yourself, or disappointing others? And she said, and if it ever came down to it, you need to choose disappointing others. So, and I agree. You don't live your life to please everyone while disappointing yourself. Absolutely not.
Can I ask you something? Michelle, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. If Viola Davis did not commit herself to herself, right? And deliver that to where you could find that message, how beneficial to you would she be?
Oh, she would be beneficial.
No. If she did not
pour into herself.
Oh, if she didn't set herself.
herself
Oh, got you. It wouldn't be beneficial.
Yes. she would not be beneficial to you at all.
At
The
all.
thing is that the most unselfish thing we could do is be selfish. We have
Mhm.
to, and
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to sit here and, sell this point. I'm just telling you that this is a fact for me.
Mhm.
That's all. I don't want to make it anybody else's fact. I'm just saying it's a fact for me.
Mhm.
I know that I need to be available for my family. I need to be
Mhm.
available for my community, what
Mhm.
I signed up to do. And
Mhm.
in order for me to do that, I have to be 100% me. I
Mhm.
have to say that I have enough energy to give,
Mhm.
and without sitting there and charging myself fully. I'm not talking about 75%. Oh, I'm good for the
Mhm.
day and all that other stuff. Oh, yeah, the new iPhone, it holds a charge longer than so and so. Guess what? I'm going to be at 100% before
Mhm.
I get the hell up today and service you. How about that one?
There you go.
I agree. You
Absolutely.
can't pour from an empty cup. Your cup has to be full to help everybody else. You can't pour from an empty cup. You just can't.
Yeah, and
So,
I'm not pouring from a 75% full cup neither. It got to be all the way up there, sweetheart. I
Fully
apologize.
charged.
Listen, as soon as somebody says something, and if in my mind for a second I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do, then the answer is no.
Right.
You
Mhm.
go.
Like
answer
if I
is
have
There
to
we go.
think
no.
about it, if my
Not gonna
immediate
be able to
response
do it.
isn't yes, no problem,
Mhm.
and I gotta think real quick, like, hold on, do I really want it? No, the answer is no.
Mhm.
Because I just can't.
Yeah,
So,
and
Yeah.
staying firm in those no's,
mm-hmm.
Keeping those boundaries because a lot of
Yes,
times boundaries can be tested when people are used to crossing them.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. You say no and they keep, well, but no, my answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And teaching our kids that no is no. It's
Absolutely.
okay to say no.
Mhm.
I think that is going to be a big factor when it comes to self-love, when it comes to growth, when it comes to self-development. I mean, again, I believe self-love contributes to every factor that we discussed today.
Mm-hmm.
When it
Absolutely.
comes to life development, when it comes to job and finances, just knowing that you are capable of making more money than you're making right now. That you are capable of being educated, that you're worth the education, that you're worth, to be taken care of, that you're worth being safe, feeling safe. And so self-love to me, I feel covers everything that we discussed today.
Absolutely.
Amen.
This has been an amazing, amazing discussion, everyone. I have truly been blessed. I know that the listeners are going to be blessed, especially with every topic that we touched. The goal of this episode was to touch on areas that are not really discussed wholeheartedly, raw, authentically, and to bring about a change for those coming after us. And even now, I know that things are written, but there are things that we can rewrite as well. I believe we
Absolutely.
have I did believe that we each have a pen. We each have a pen and a story to tell, and each one of us, each individual can change the narrative for our kids and those around us. So, if you are listening to this episode, I hope that you have been blessed in honor of Black History Month, showing everyone that we can rise, that we can continue, that we can grow, and we can heal and move forward. So, tell us, lovely guests that have been on here, how can we find you? How can we connect with you? And how can we hear more about what you have to say on this topic? King, we'll start with you.
You can catch me at Control K Decky and T Kingpin on all the socials. That's on Instagram, that's on TikTok, that's on YouTube, that's on Twitter X, on Facebook. So you can catch me on every single one of those on there. I do weekly videos, recaps and all of that stuff. But you can contact and hit me up. We can go back and forth, talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Awesome. How about you, Herb?
I am now Googleable, if that makes sense. Herbert, 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 Parsi, P as in Paul, Arsi. Um, just put me in Google, from GED to college degree. Right here will pop up my site to. Hopefully you'll feel comfortable sitting down with a licensed therapist. If you feel the need to receive any support on that end, the link is in. I'm working on a podcast now, called I Gotta Start Somewhere, um, and it's strictly just because I need to get off my feet and actually just get into the community and identify those uncomfortable moments and my community sitting, because I was the same way. I was and still am, reserving some of that, should I say this to that person and so on and so forth. So I just want to make this thing a little bit more comfortable. So like I said, I'm Googleable, if that's a word. HERBERT, as in Paul, ARSI. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Khalilah, sorry.
I can be found on Instagram and Facebook at Achieving Minds Life Coaching LLC. Also at BioLink/KLees. All my sites will pop up on there.
Awesome. How about you, Michelle?
You can find me on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. It's Annalisa Firms. You can go to my website, annalisafirms.com, to book a session. So yeah. And you can Google me. It'll come up. So
Cool stuff.
Nate?
Yeah, you can find me almost everywhere. Williams Media Group, 2025. Sorry, Williams Media 2025 on Instagram. My name, Nate Williams. Or I could be found on air247.com. Please reach out to us if you have any issues and you feel comfortable speaking to any person on this panel. You can reach out to me and I will reach out to them to connect you. New book, No Shame in Growing Up, coming out December 2026. And that's about being able to understand yourself and growing from a lot of the stigmas that you might have about yourself in this world.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Can I add one more? I'm sorry, I forgot to say that I accept all major insurances. I forgot to say that part. So, and I also do slide and scale, which is a system, for those who don't have insurances, to make therapy affordable for those people. I'm sorry, I forgot to plug that in.
Oh, that's good information. I love that. Okay, there you have it, guys. If you're looking to connect with each one of them individually, go ahead and do that. They have provided you the information. Let's work together.
Yeah.
Until next time, I am your coach and your host, Giovanna Cirillo. Say bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Oh,
Found it forever.
We're holding on.
Now y'all got nothing to say.